Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Midwest Artisan. I'm your host, Andy Hinkle.
And I'm your co-host, Don McCleary.
So Dalton, how's it going? I feel like I say the same thing every time, but I'm just gonna do it again. How's it going, dude?
Hey, it's going good. Love the Midwest weather we're getting, where it's nice and 30 at night, 75 in the afternoon.
We're in the desert. Yeah.
Yeah, I love this weather though. This is my favorite type of weather. What about you?
So
How you feel?
You're actually outside now? You're going
I would
outside?
like to be outside. We're gonna have a podcast outside one of these days in the summer. I'll come to your house. We can do it outside.
Yes, do a live show. Yeah, we can do it on back patio. Yeah. Well, might be. Yeah, we'll have to figure out the logistics, but yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, man, it's been really good. My boy just turned 2. We had a fantastic birthday. He's really into cats, which I know we had a short discussion before the show about how much you like cats, and so he's really into that. So it's life has been really good. I just want to slow down. He got his first haircut, and like there's nothing that prepares you as a dad for your especially your son, his first haircut. He goes from like a baby to a boy. It's just crazy. Like I don't even know how to explain it, but that was probably the only other time besides when he was born I really got choked up. I was like, oh, my little boy. So yeah, anyway.
Aww.
Yeah,
it's Papa Andy.
Yeah, but it's such a cool experience. I just want to freeze time, and so cool. All right, a lot of Laravel stuff happening. So if you'd like, we can get into it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we have Laravel Cloud that launched since we've been gone, and since I've been working with Bossman Jake, we came up with a few topics. So like that'd be a good podcast topic, and like he mentioned he want to talk about some on his show, and I want to talk about some on our show. So got some of that. We have browser testing, which I'd love to talk about, just how our frustrations with browser testing. We got a song which I will play in the show, so stay tuned. Jake Bennett. I wrote a eulogy for Laravel Dusk. And that transpired into Jake writing a song, and it's a heavy metal song. It's actually pretty legit. We'll give it a whirl here in a bit. Talk about Reddit, how awful Reddit is, but no, it's just that Reddit thread, which how if Laravel is going in the wrong direction, and maybe the gateway pattern. So if we have time, maybe next show, but we'll see if we can sneak it in there. So. We have stand up each morning, and it's really fun because it's not like a typical stand up. I remember you telling me about your stand up, and you could actually probably share about that in a moment. But our stand up is we go around, and it can be pretty lengthy sometimes, but I love it because we get really into each developer's needs, and then when we're on pairing, I know immediately like what they're working on or what Jake was referring to, or maybe they were the developer was screen sharing, and they were talking about it in specifics instead of like they have to like get me all through it again. We do a ton of pairing, and so it's like really nice if I join on pair. Like I immediately can catch on pretty quick, and so. But at the end of the stand up, we do a game called Bomberman, and so it's a multiplayer game. It takes like 5 minutes to play. We do best of 3 rounds, and so if you win all 3 rounds, you get a crown next to your name on Slack. And so we just kind of tally each day of like who's winning. It's a lot of fun. If you've ever played Bomberman before, it's like power ups. You get speed boost, you get extra bombs. But the idea, it's a multiplayer game. But so it's you can play. One, you got to make sure you don't blow yourself up, and then you play with other people to make sure they don't blow you up. And so it's highly competitive, and we do a lot of trash talking, and so it's really good. But it's the service that we use is called the website anyway. It's called around.co. And I don't know if it's part of Tuple, maybe not, but I might be getting that wrong. But anyway, unfortunately, they are closing down at the end of this month. So we're like each day we play the game. We're like, guys, we should probably start writing some code to figure out like, should we find an open source version of this game and try to work on it? Should we ask them for the code, like, hey, we'll pay whatever, ask the developer, since it is shutting down. And so we're looking at writing, probably very likely just implementing our own on an open source version so we can still play it. And so it's for some of our developers, including me, it's like one of the things I really look forward to, with the other developers. So if you're on a team, just throw this in there. Just like, it takes 5 minutes to do. I believe it's free. You can just play as guest. So it's really fun. And we're just finding a game that takes 5 minutes. It won't take too much of your time. And that's actually one of the best ways I know to get to knowing some of the other developers, especially since I'm one of the new people on the team. We get in there and we start just talking whatever instead of, work dynamics. And so it's pretty nice. And again, 5 minutes of your time as a team, and then you maybe have a crown on your Slack handle the rest of the day. So, but anyway, we're looking at writing code for that. And there's one weekend I was like, you know what, I'm going to see what I can do here to work on this game. And man, game development is just like, that's a whole different world of like, it's not just divs and conditions. It's just like, there's so much math involved into it. We got a proof of concept running locally. So we just have to figure out how to host it. Maybe on Laravel Cloud. We'll talk about that. But yeah, what are your stand-ups like?
Yeah, our stand-ups are as fast as possible. Like, I'm just looking back. We don't use Slack. We use Teams, Microsoft Teams. So it like keeps a history of how long. I know how long the calls are, and like on average, they're like 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 2.5 minutes. Like they're quick, right? They're like, hey, what are you working on? You got any blockers? No. Okay, who's next? What are you working on? Got any blockers? No, who's next? All right, thanks, bye.
Wow.
It goes by pretty quick. I don't know. I kind of like it being quick. Gets me back to my day of what I'm working on. And we have our like pair programming sessions like scheduled. So like every Wednesday, I meet with my boss for at least an hour, usually 2, to just like pair program anything. He's like, what are you working on? What do you need help with? What do you want to work on? Is there a bug that you have trouble with, et cetera, et cetera.
That's
so
nice.
We just always have those scheduled time. So, I'll just meet with him. If I have anything like pressing, I'll just wait for that, or say, hey, can we meet today on Tuesday instead of Wednesday? He'd be like, sure, yeah, whatever. So yeah, our stand-ups are like, get done.
Quick. Yeah.
But I might, if this is going away, or if you guys actually build something that's cool, I might have to suggest that we play this.
Maybe you just
ourselves.
Share. You have before the end of the month. Today is March 18th, so you have just slightly. If you're listening, you have before the end of the month to play. Around.co, I believe, is the domain. But give that a shot. Send it to your team. It's so much fun. You mentioned pairing with your boss on Wednesdays. Do you pair with any other developers pretty actively?
Not currently, no. Currently, it's just I work on one project, and they work on a different, bigger project. And so as an easy way to just sort of slide me into the team dynamic is they let me have my own project. And so I just work with my boss on that.
Nice.
Which is nice, right? Like I don't have to do any of this complex stuff. There's 3 other developers here. So I don't want every single day to have like a pair programming with somebody else on a different project. That would hurt my brain. And that context switching is not what I like. So for now, 1 project, 1 boss, 1 pair programming session a week, like minimum. Sometimes we do a couple. Usually it lasts like an hour to 2 hours. So we get quite a lot done. I learned a lot about Postgres too. Like I knew zero about Postgres when I took this gig. And my boss, we were on the phone for like 2 hours, and he was telling me all the things you could do with Postgres that I didn't know you could do normally. And it's awesome.
Do you have, like, throw it in the spot, do you have like an example? Do you guys, I guess you guys do a lot with coordinates and stuff like that, geo coordinates? Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, there's a column in Postgres, like geo. It's basically, it looks like just a big long string of letters and numbers and whatever. But when it gets interpolated into Laravel through this package, it becomes like coordinates. It's got a lat and a long, it's got an X and a Y. You could swap it to, whatever you want. You could cast it to be an array, or you can cast it to be a string. It's just all the coordinates. Wow. It's wicked cool, and it could be used to, plot things on a map or plot a line on a map. It could draw a shape, so you can like actually 3D model with these like geometry things in a column. Wicked cool.
Yeah,
wicked
cool.
Cool.
That's really sweet. Yeah, we don't do a ton with geo coordinates now. I know, like, I'm really involved with like the weather and the weather developers community, and they are really big on Postgres. So that makes sense of like
that makes sense.
Or geo coordinates and stuff like that. So that's really cool.
That stuff.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
And then Laravel's making a pretty big shift to it's either like that, at least on the surface, they appear to be like if you don't want to use SQLite, use Postgres. And so yeah, they used to be everything is MySQL. So yeah, I'm more curious if they'll kind of over the next few years if we'll continue that trend or what that would be. So
it's ironic because like Laravel Cloud, when it launched, you only had Postgres. You could only like have a production site with Postgres. They're like MySQL is coming, and then when it came out, it's like, yeah, but don't use this for like production stuff. Like it's not fully working yet, which makes sense because after I used Postgres, I was like, why the hell would I ever use MySQL?
Interesting.
When I could just use Postgres.
Okay. So you're telling me if you fire up a new Laravel app right now, your default will be Postgres?
I think
Dependent.
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I don't know why I would.
I'm gonna definitely have to give that a whirl. I know Aaron Francis has a wonderful course on Postgres. Did you watch that?
I have not watched it.
Okay.
But I told my boss that I would like to watch that.
Okay. Yeah. I would definitely like to do the same and get more into Postgres. But that Postgres seems like to really be taking a good foundation, at least for cloud. And so have you, just switching gears here, have you signed up for cloud? Have you been using it at all?
I have signed up for cloud. I used it day one. I've got 3 little small apps for merge loop. And it took me about 2 hours to transfer all of that stuff from Forge to cloud and have it like actually be working on whatever the cloud subdomain is. There was some stuff that I had to figure out how to do that I didn't realize was going to be super complicated. And one of the things that I really liked about what I had with Forge was that, since it's Nginx, I could just have like static HTML files, like cached pages, and they could just be served through Nginx. I didn't have to touch Laravel. The problem with cloud is that it's not that. So I can't use any of those things. So I had to figure out a new way to like serve my site. It's just the old-fashioned Laravel way. So I had to alter a few things, and that's what took the amount of time. We've talked briefly about it, but I don't think that I am the target audience for this. I don't think you're the target audience for this. Like it's in an odd spot, and I think a lot of it has to do with the pricing model. $20 a month just for like production level stuff. I could spend $18 a month and have Forge and DigitalOcean, and it's fine. I don't have to deal with any of that hibernation stuff. I get my Nginx page caching.
Yeah. Let's talk pricing on that. Yeah. So, because for me personally, it's like, kind of similar to you. I have all my sites on Forge. It's like, it's not an issue. So I don't know why I would want to move them other than, the only thing that is appealing to me, and it's not ready yet, is the feature branches. If they can get automatic feature branches where it open a PR and I can see a preview of the maybe a sandbox environment, I might strongly consider it. But at least for me, like for small sites, I just don't see it. And the company we're at now, that all of our stuff is, we take care of all of the servers, so we have like a team that does that. So it's not practical for that. And I can see other companies, like the company that we were at, there is a very big application that would be a good candidate for this. Because there's been times where I just been in the weeds of AWS, and it's frustrating, like looking through logs, and it's like it's hooked into Laravel. It's hooked into AWS, but in this case, you're talking like they build it for Laravel. So the logs, everything is going to be built in a Laravel centric way. And so that sounds really appealing for bigger apps. But yeah, for smaller ones, it is hard. I tried. So I got my Andy Cloud URL. So did you see that thing going around Twitter?
Yeah. As soon as I saw Taylor posted that, I got mine too. I was like,
I got that.
Nobody's getting mine.
And I did try setting up my personal site, but it threw a fuss on it. It was saying like it was having some troubles parsing Markdown files. So I'm using like the Common Mark Blade stuff by Brian Chandler for blog posts. Like it's all in Markdown. And the way that my routes and stuff are generated are pulling through those files, the file names, and then it would look in there to generate, a slug and stuff like that. But it just couldn't. it would have to, it just does some regular expression on that. And it was just chunking. It couldn't like read through those because it's very similar to AWS. It probably doesn't have a file system work through. But I imagine if they're using, because they are using AWS, so it's still kind of serverless. So I might have to give that a try again, because I know some other people who have a similar setup with Markdown. Their site's fine on Laravel Cloud. So maybe it was just a me thing. But yeah, I was just like, once I got there and I knew I was kind of like going iffy into it. So, but yeah, I want to talk about pricing. Because it seems to be very centric around medium to large apps. And that's to be expected with this. For small sites, so do you have pricing on that so far of what you've experienced? Have you got a bill yet from Laravel Cloud? Taylor said, hey, pay this up?
No, I have not paid. I have not paid for it. I'm only on the sandbox plan, just because Forge is $12 a month for me, and I have a $6 server, so it's $18 flat every month for me to host my 3 sites. And like Cloud, its pricing is it starts at $20. That's just for Cloud. That's not any of the compute whatever stuff. Now, granted, unfortunately, my sites don't get a lot of traffic, so I don't think I'm going to pay a whole lot in compute. Maybe just like a couple dollars. So if I'm being optimistic, like $25 a month for Cloud for me, just like I could just save $6 and just keep using Forge.
Yeah,
I think there needs to be more pricing tiers for Cloud. Like production is $20. I think if they had just had like a freelance tier that was like $5, you get 1 server, no auto scale, hibernation, 1 domain. That's it. Just like 1 site. That's it. That's all you get. $5. I'd love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was kind of curious, I figured they would follow Vercel. And when I remember signing up, it was like credit card. Like, oh, that caught me by surprise. I don't know if you sign up for Vercel right now, if it requires a credit card, but at least I don't remember it. I mean, I know that's like
I don't think so.
for new developers, for anyone starting out, at least for me, when I get to that page, I might click X out of like, oh, well, I thought it was free, or the sandbox is free. Yeah. So that's just kind of caution. I mean, I don't expect to have everything for free, but I'm just thinking of a perspective of a new junior developer coming in that doesn't, in school or whatever. If they get to that payment page, they're like, wait a minute, what? And they might be kind of confused. And Vercel might do it now, at least when I used it years ago. They didn't have like a payment or like a payment required or whatever. And I understand why Laravel does it, but they're just trying to be more open to new developers or to developers from the JavaScript community or other areas. And I feel like that might be a blocker, but we'll see. I mean, it is the best way, the easiest way. You just literally open it and throw your Laravel app in there, and it should just fire right up, and you don't have to deal with servers. And I know a lot of JavaScript people don't want to deal with servers. Some of them don't even know what cron jobs are or how to use them, which is mind blowing to me. So just crazy. So the UI, absolutely amazing. I get so much inspiration from it. It's just some of the UI decisions are incredible, and
needs a dark
the
mode,
other thing, yeah.
It needs a dark mode.
It does need a dark mode. Yeah, I think that's coming. I think on the roadmap. But going back to the medium and large app things, one thing I really do like from an agency side of things is the idea of teams. I felt like Forge's Laravel Forge, their circle thing wasn't really fleshed out. Like you had to be logged in as the account owner to manage them. So if I'm logging in as me, Andy, logging in, and I want to add you as like, hey, come help me on this project, I have to go bug admin, or I have to go log it in the admin myself to go and add you. And theoretically, it's just like if you actually have policies and things like that, it's not really fleshed out to like, hey, come help me on this project, and maybe like approval system invitations, or requests to join, stuff like that. And I feel like Cloud is a step closer to that. It's very similar to Vercel, and Vercel does that, where you can it's more team based. Like you have your organizational, then you have multiple teams, and so with something like with the flow, now like I remember when I logged in on Forge, like going to those circles, it would be like, you have to sign up for a business plan. Like, well, I'm already on the business plan, but it's just because I'm a guest on the owner's business plan. So Anyway, I feel like they'll have a better flow for that, so that'll be really good. I am very excited for cloud. I feel like those medium and large apps, they're gonna have a lot of potential there.
Yeah.
For be a
Yeah.
big moneymaker for Laravel. Um, yeah, that'll be really good. And like I said, if I that particular app back at the agency, I would already be kind of
Perfect.
pushing that way. Yeah,
Hmm.
because
Perfect.
we do some weird stuff over AWS. In fact, that was my first time using Laravel Vapor, and I just set it up as like all defaults. And the Laravel Vapor database in AWS is called it's RDS on AWS. It's just called production, and I cannot change it. So like it's just literally the string production, and that because that was a Laravel Vapor default. And if I tried to change it in AWS through a fuss, and then so I asked the Vapor team, and they said no, there's not a way to change your database name. I'm like, what? That's just kind of crazy. So I feel like that would kind of be helpful and probably be a solved thing where you don't have to. The reason it was a problem is because when you're an admin, you're rolling around in AWS looking at RDS and like, what is this thing called production?
Production.
It's very ambiguous, right? It's like you don't know what app it belongs to. AWS does have like a note description, so I was able to add that in there, but they have to like hopefully they see that and don't delete it. But I don't.
Do not
It'd be
delete
if
production.
someone deletes the production on there is staging, so I can see that. But if somebody deletes production on there, that can be kind of scary. But anyway, yeah, you can't change your name. But I feel like cloud, I'll just reach out to support. Hey, we changed it, whatever. I mean, just it's easy enough, but we don't have to deal with AWS. Yeah, and there's been a few other times with Vapor that I've reached out to them. They're like, hey, you're gonna have to reach out to AWS support because we're out of options here. So then I go to AWS, and if you looked up the pricing for that, last time I looked, I think it was like 30 grand a year, and for starting.
Yeah.
And so it's just like you got to be real serious of that. So yeah.
Heart attack. You just
So,
gave me a
I mean,
heart
yeah,
attack.
there's definitely, I mean, just for those reasons, Laravel Cloud, absolutely. If I was still working on that, if I was still working on the app, and I might even get them, might just poke them one day, like, hey, you guys should probably take a look at this, just to migrate in the future. But yeah, so I need to go back to it. I want to give it another shot. And so I was just kind of waiting for, once I saw that exception, I was like, I'm going to let the dust settle a little bit and come back to it and see if I can get it all set up again. So might give it another try.
Yeah.
Because I love the
it's
idea of
good.
just,
It's
yeah,
good, right? Like,
right. What does sound appealing to me is not having Laravel Forge and DigitalOcean. What sounds appealing to me is I go
Yes.
to Laravel Cloud. That's it. That
that's
sounds
it.
awesome. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
My wife will like it
to
too.
me,
She's
yeah,
a
I mean, the
CFO.
billings.
So what's DigitalOcean? What is
Yeah.
like, oh, that's the servers. Oh, I thought Laravel Forge was the servers.
Yeah,
Oh,
why
that's
is
a
there two?
provisioner.
Why is
What's
there-
a provisioner? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Laravel Cloud is awesome. My two biggest gripes on it is the pricing. It's too high for hobbyists. I consider myself a hobbyist. And I don't like the hibernation stuff. I like it in theory, but I've tested it out on my sites. When a site goes into hibernation and I click on it to open it back up, and it wakes itself back up, it takes way too damn long. I timed it one time; it was like over a minute
Wow.
to bring my site back up.
Just to bring it back up. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like that's why I liked, I on my deployment hook, I go through all of my static pages and I cache them as HTML files and just have Nginx serve them, right? Super fast. For that reason, I don't have to even worry about, I've got a rinky-dink Forge server, like the lowest whatever DigitalOcean you have. For that reason, I don't hit it at all. With this one, I've got it like on it's not the lowest one, but it's like a one or two bumps up, like the CPU usage one wise. It just takes too long to wake back up. And if I'm paying more money for this service, I expect it to be fast as hell. Like I don't mind
Interesting. Yeah.
15 seconds. Like if it took 15 seconds to wake up, that's fine. But if like I'm selling stuff and a developer goes to my site, it takes a minute to wake up. I don't think I'm gonna get a sell from that.
Their selling point was like it only takes just a few seconds to wake up. So that's interesting. Maybe
Mine was taking
it.
that was the first 2 weeks I was testing it out. So I haven't tested it since, and it's the middle of March, so maybe I should try it again. But
Still,
it is
still
pricing
early.
is too much. It's a bit much for me. as a small business owner.
Yeah,
and
yeah, no, for sure. Yeah,
a little bit too much for me.
Definitely want to give another spin. So, yeah, I might come back to this in a few months and we might have a different opinion. I think if I will tell you a selling point for me, if Nightwatch is if you don't have to install Nightwatch, that would be one thing. And if you you're on Laravel Cloud, you just click the button and you have Nightwatch. That would be a huge selling point for me too. But, yeah, just like the less maintenance, like I said, I don't have multiple login places. It's just super easy. I just click in there. So yeah, it'll be really good. We'll have to come back and here in a few months and do another review. Probably the same time as we go through Nightwatch. So
bingo. For now, it's fine for now. It probably will get better.
Do you guys use browser testing at all?
No. And I'll tell you why. Because the last time I used browser testing, I think it was at that first gig that you and I worked at together. I made some dust tests. And this might not sound familiar because I was just complaining about how slow Laravel Cloud is about hibernation wake-ups. Dust tests make me want to pull the individual eyelashes out of my eyes because it takes so damn long.
I wrote a eulogy for Laravel Dusk. You want to hear it?
So yes, let's hear this eulogy.
I want to give some context. So Laravel Dusk, where the new company I met out, we use Laravel Dusk and PHP Unit. So yeah, I mean, I understand the reasons for Laravel Dusk. Like one for particular, actually at the agency, the CSS, just like the Vite script was all screwed up and just was not loading CSS. PHP Unit wouldn't have a clue. Just like, but browser tests, yeah, it would easily pick up on that. So that was through like an npm install upgrade. Yeah. Anyway, so since then, I understand the concept and all that, but we cannot, just in recent weeks, we cannot get a pass. And it's nothing like our features changed or package upgrades changed. It's just like, this is in our CI, in our GitHub Actions pipeline. Dusk will just not pass. It gives this message, unknown error connection refused. And the only things out there is in GitHub Actions, you can retry a task or a step on a task. You just can't retry the entire task. I tried fiddling with that. It's a mess. So, but how you fix it is you retry it like 4 or 5 times and eventually it'll pass. That's just kind of been the thing. And then last week it just died. And it was right after we're having all sorts of issues. Jake wrote a song, which I will play here shortly. It's amazing. And then before that, I wrote a eulogy. It says, "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to mourning the passing of our dear test suite, Laravel Dusk. After 4 long days of suffering, countless retries, and more than enough CI logs to sift through, Dusk has finally succumbed to its fate. Dusk was once a shining beacon of automated testing, faithfully clicking buttons, asserting visibility, and making sure our modals actually closed. But in its final moments, it refused to pass, gasping its last breath. Some say we hurt its feelings. Others claim it simply lost its will to live. We tried everything, reruns, fresh branches, and even whispered apologies. But Dusk stood firm in its defiance. It left us with one final message. Error unknown, net, : error _ connection _ refused. Rest in peace, Laravel Dusk. May your selectors always be valid and your elements forever visible."
Well said.
So that was with ChatGPT in a very helpful prompt. So
of course.
But so we started just like, okay, we're having too much fun with this. Then Jake created a song. One of our other developers, his name is Wilbur Powery. So we have a guy named Wilbur, works at Wilbur. So it's a thing. Yeah. But he's a great dude. He's also a Laravel community member. He's a really good guy. But anyway, he said he cried a little. But it was great. So Jake wrote a song, or he like piped this through an AI, and it's actually really good. It's a heavy metal song. I'll play it.
It is good. Yeah.
Here we go, folks.
Please.
We'll play the first 30 seconds in. Well, we got to get to the chorus. I don't know where that's at, but we got to get to the chorus. And then if you want to listen to the full song, we'll put it at the end. Here we go. All right. So that was the song that he had generated through AI. We'll play the full thing at the end. But my favorite part was the block pull request. It really like emphasizes the pull request. It's good. It makes you feel it. It makes you feel it just like we felt it in the failing test.
That's hilarious. I love every single bit of that. Well done.
I felt that quite a bit because there was one PR I really wanted to get merged, and I just sat here, hit the retry button over. Like I said, the thing how to fix it is hit the retry button like 4 or 5 times. We were going like I was at like 27 retries. I'm like, I think it's broken. Like it's just not going. It's just not happening. And there's a difference between like halfway through, like you got to go back and are these actually failing? Or is that actually what's happening here? Or is it just broken and it's just broken? So we've had all sorts of people come in and try to fix these things. But anyway, where we're trying to go is we're trying to use Playwright. So Playwright is a JavaScript
I've heard of this. Yeah.
Browser testing. Nuno Maduro, a Laravel core guy, I think he's integrating this into Pest of some sort, maybe perhaps a plugin. There's not a release on the package yet, but it looks really good. So he has like, it's kind of, if you know with Dusk uses, what does Dusk use under the hood? It's been forever since I looked at that. But you know how it uses, I think it's one of Facebook's things, like something by Facebook they have. But uses something by them under the hood. And it's kind of a similar concept, but for Playwright. It's you can use Playwright, but you can also use all of Laravel's goodies along with Playwright. So now we're in this holding pattern. We're like, okay, should we kind of run our own implementation and kind of baby this thing along? Should we wait for Nuno? So we think we're at least at the current pattern. We're just going to hold off and see where things shake out. But man, browser tests are just so tricky. I mean, they make sense. I understand them. CI takes forever. It's like any CI that takes more than a minute to run, just like, come on, I'm ready to, I want to see all green before I send this to somebody. Hey, you want to pair on this PR or whatever, So it's just like, all right, I'm going to go get a Coke and come back. Oh, it's freaking failing again. Freaking Dusk. So yeah, but it's good.
Well, so let me ask you this question then. I've actually got a couple questions. How long does your pipeline take if Dusk runs correctly?
It's a good question. I mean, it's not unbearable. I remember that. I want to say it's probably 5 minutes. And I think they've
5 minutes?
Yeah, it's not too bad. I remember, like the app that we had years ago when we were probably very exclusively Laravel Dusk tests. It would be rare that we wrote a unit test unless it was doing like a back-end thing, like a job or something. But if it was doing something on front end, we wrote a Dusk test for it. And
login tests, checkout tests,
everything. And so I remember that would take sometimes up to 20 minutes. Like you just have to wait, But that was back, that was back then, and I think we even used Travis. Are they even around anymore? I think they're. I was reading.
I don't remember.
I think they are. I think I was reading something about how they are trimming some services back. I think they're obviously. I mean, we have Circle CI. They're still around, but GitHub Actions is where it's at. I know GitLab has its own thing. So, but Travis used to be the thing back in the day, and so. But anyway, that took like 20 minutes over on Travis CI back when. So, but now it's like.
I'm impressed you said 5 minutes. I was not expecting 5 minutes at all. Like my GitHub Actions now on the site that I'm working on has it's like 250 tests, and it takes like a minute and a half.
Yeah, it's really good.
To do the whole build, set up, Postgres, run all of it. Problem is that it's not even parallel. It's not running parallel.
Oh,
there's only
that's
one
impressive.
Postgres
It's
image,
not parallel.
So it just runs all 250 back to back to back to back. So yeah, I'm impressed when you said 5 minutes. Like how many Dust tests do you have? Is there one that just like hits the homepage and sees if CSS loaded, or is there like actual end-to-end stuff?
It's mostly end-to-end, just like, hey, we're gonna load this page, we're gonna click this view component, make sure it's doing the correct thing. Yeah, I actually just pulled it up, and it looks like we only have about 50 or so. But
okay.
I think we would, if we didn't have this issue, like just the burden of Dusk, we'd probably have more. I mean, I would probably do, if you're asking my honest opinion, if Dusk was fast as just unit tests, I would probably write a dust test every time. Understandably, it can never get that fast, but just because it actually has to reload a DOM and it has to interact, etc., etc. So on previous apps, I've done mostly because of the speed, and it accomplishes the same, except it's not actually browser testing, but with Jest, that's one of the big apps we worked on together. It's PHP unit and Jest together, and that works really well. So we have Jest testing our React components on this particular app, and then
Nice.
and then PHP unit for everything else. I think I switched it to Pest, before I left. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, it can be frustrating with browser tests. So there's just not really a clear cut answer, and I feel like Nuno was asking that on Twitter, and we got a lot of feedback like, yeah, Dust kind of sucks. So yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
Hopefully, yeah. So I'm just kind of curious. Yeah, which I'm kind of curious in years to come if they're going to still kind of maintain Dusk. I'm talking like 10 years from now, will Dusk be a thing? Just because it's just it's so problematic, and then there's just new tools of the trade coming. So we'll see. So one of the other things I wanted to bring up was just this idea of rather to return a 400 or 200 on a non-existing data route. So I'll just kind of set the scene for you, and I'm kind of curious the way that you would address this. All right. So you working on a new feature for email verifications. This is outside the scope of users table. So users table isn't a thing. We don't know who they quite are. We just know that we just need to yes, no, did they do like double opt-in, something like that. With double opt, where they confirm their email address, they clicked a button, confirm their address. So you might have a table like email _ verification, something like that, where it's just a simple like email field. That's it. Something to that effect, right? So this is an API endpoint from an accompanying application. So you have another application talking to your application, say, hey, is this email verified? Up, down. So you're going to create this API endpoint controller. Mm-hmm. You have a controller. It might be something like verified email controller. I don't know, something to that effect. We can even say it's invocable, or maybe just have like a store route and a show route. Just something like one to store the verification. Like, hey, we have this email. It's verified. Just return it 201, that we stored it. Then a show route that we have, and this is where I want to ask you. You have an API route. Inside the show method, you have a given email address, which will hit the table and return a response. So if the given email address is not verified, what's your response here? What's your status response? Your status code response? Put you on the spot.
Yeah, is this an interview? Is this a coding interview question?
It's actually not a bad interview question, just to understand their thinking. So did I lay the land for you pretty well with that?
Yeah. So it's my immediate thought is that it can't throw a 404 because it's found, but its status is not the one that you think it is. But you did find the record, right?
So we'll just say that the incoming email is not there. Yeah, let me set that up better. The incoming email does not exist. So we have an API request to the show route to determine if the email is verified or not. This record does not exist. Basically, we're going to say no, it doesn't. Do we return two options here? Do we return a 200 with a response key of verified false, or do we just return a 404? It's not, it's one of those tricky ones.
Yeah. I think it would depend on who's calling the API and what they expect. My head immediately would go to a 200 and either just say status false.
Okay. That's what Jake said.
The API works and it does its thing. And you give it the right things, it should say, hey, 200, this is either verified, not verified, or it doesn't exist, therefore it isn't verified. That's where my head goes. I would lean more towards the 200 versus a 404.
Interesting. Okay.
In my opinion.
Yeah, and so I had this conversation with Boss Jake, and he was saying pretty much the same thing. He was
call him that all the time. It's not Jake Bennett anymore. It's Boss Jake.
Boss Jake. Yeah. So he was saying the same thing, actually. He, in our code review, he was just like, what's this going on? What's going on here? And where my mind, I want to start off with my thought process of like when I wrote this thing. One is a show method. So I'm thinking typically you have a model in there. And if the model doesn't exist, it's just going to toss you a 404, right? So that's where my headspace was at. And I was just like, well, if it doesn't exist, it's going to return 200. If it does, or if it doesn't, if it does exist, it's going to return a 200. If it does not exist, it's just going to turn 404, empty response. But then it's just like, well, probably should have a response in there, because an empty response is kind of weird too. You should have a response because you're not going to do no content, because that's a whole different discussion.
That makes no sense.
So then you always have this key of verified. Bool of verified, true, false. So you have to include that, but then I had this condition there, like, oh, if it's verified, throw a 200. If it's not verified, throw a 404. But then my prop process is on my other app, I could just determine like quickly if like, hey, if this is 404, it's bad. If it's 200, it's good. But his response, he was telling me that, he said, am I getting a 404 because the email is unverified, or am I getting a 404 because the route doesn't exist? Like, I don't know why I'm getting a 404. Is there a bad data issue? And so that was kind of an interesting thing. But ultimately, I just ended up returning a 200. It's always a 200 response, but there's a verified key connection. It was a really good discussion. I was just like, yeah, I mean, should it be a 404? Because it's kind of tricky, because if it's a model, if it does a model return it, yeah, that's just kind of a tricky thing. Like if you do user API /user/1, and then which would give you back the first record, but if you typed in whatever else in there, it's going to give you a 404. So it kind of convinced me with that, but I was like, this is a good discussion. But anyway, yeah, I just thought that was kind of a tricky thing I ran across.
Yeah, damn. I don't think that the 200 versus 400, I don't think there's a right answer, right? I think that's the problem with this damn programming stuff, is that there's never one way to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with Boss Jake on his reason. Boss Jake? Did I pass the interview question, Boss Jake?
Yeah, that's cool that you agreed. Well, I will also tell you that what finally made me come to the ultimate decision is ChatGPT, or if you ask Primogen, ChatGPT, ChatGPT agreed with you and said that, because I kind of laid this out and I said, what's kind of the best practice, what's most common, and ChatGPT said, hey, the 200 is kind of the way we go here. But I was just like, I'm like, I understand all that, just like, but the thing with the model is just what got me tripped up. I was like, if it's a model, like, yeah.
You could convince me. You could convince me that the 400 and use the Laravel default, the route model binding. If you don't see it, it's going to throw a 404 for you anyway. Like, you could convince me to say, hey, this is the Laravel default. Let's use the Laravel default.
What would Taylor do?
Convince me.
I bet Taylor would use the Laravel
default.
Yeah,
he would probably use the default.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, Boss Jake, listen, you're overruled. Taylor said 404.
I bet.
We're changing it back. Sorry.
What would Taylor do? That's good. Yeah.
Well,
I'm going to start my every Claude Air Chat GPT with that. What would Taylor do?
Read through Taylor Otwell's tweets and tell me how he would program this for me.
Yeah, that's good.
An AI
Speaking
chat
of Taylor, he came back to Reddit, which one of the first comments on the Reddit thread was, babe, wake up. Taylor's back on Reddit. So I like that. But anyway, also on Reddit was this very popular post. It says, is Laravel going in the wrong direction? And it actually ended up being it actually ended up being the #1 all-time thread on our Laravel, or on the Laravel subreddit. And so just some stats, it has 1.3K upvotes, 500 comments, and 227,000 views. That's a ton of people. So looking at this thing, probably from different ecosystem, JavaScript, etc. But anyway, one thing that caught me by surprise was 96% upvotes compared to, like, you have upvotes, downvotes on Reddit. So like, wow, a lot of people actually agree with this or have some some value into where they maybe agree with parts of this. Some key points. First of all, did you see this, by the way? I just, before I start going to this and you have no clue what I'm talking about. Okay.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I've read this thing.
Okay. Yeah. And if you haven't seen this thread yet, just Google the term Laravel is going in the wrong direction. I'm sure it'll be the first result. But some points they were making that on this thread, that just took some notes here. They said Jetstream is end of life. The Laravel starter kit, which relies on Volt, one of the I guess the Livewire kit. Magic strings, they had a problem with that. The code sample they gave was like a PHP attribute annotation, so which I kind of like. So, and at least in models and stuff like that. But like anyway, the this thread kind of like drove me nuts because people are like maybe it's time for a fork. And I'm reading, I'm like, if you had a Laravel fork, what would you do differently? Like, it's a lot of this stuff isn't even having to do with the fork of Laravel. Some of it is starter kits, which you can create your own starter kit now. If you do like Laravel new with starter kit, you can type in your own repo. Yeah. So one of the comments, it says, I miss the Laravel 5 days where it was just plain Blade, MVC, and some sprinkles of Vue. I'm like, where are we? Is this 2025 now? We have Blade components. You can still use it. You can still use Blade. You can still use Laravel in this way. So I'm getting fired up. You can use Laravel in this way. You're not forced to use anything. You can still do everything you just said. Like you can still use Blade, MVC. You can still sprinkle in Vue. You can still do that today. And the thing now that's better than ever is like testing, and you can, by doing components, you can isolate them and test them individually and inside your tests. Then, not to mention tools like Filament, or Laravel Nova, or just like stuff that can you, when we wrote that app 10 some years ago, me and you together, we were doing all this by hand in admin panels. Like, here's where we manage our users. Like, that was just painstaking back in Bootstrap, and I'm so thankful the tools we have today. Just thinking of
Makes
Bootstrap.
me shudder thinking about Bootstrap.
Some people still like it. I get it. Yeah, they still like it. I understand. But I mean, it's frustrating just like seeing all these comments. And this was shortly after Taylor came back, so I don't know if that went hand in hand, because Taylor came back and he's like, hey guys, we got a new starter kit. It does not rely on Volt. So Volt is that thing where you have your PHP and your Blade all in one, and it's interactive. So I'm a big fan of Folio. Haven't used Volt, but Folio is really cool. But I haven't got around to using Volt yet. And actually, in the Primogen stream with Taylor, did you watch that? I know it was like 7 hours long. Did you end up watching any of that?
I've seen the memes after,
okay,
of like them
dude,
all pointing in the background. I've seen that, but I haven't watched the.
I just had it on in the background working one day, dude. That is just, you put it on your list if you just want something to watch in the background. It's just some gold in there. It was probably the best coding live stream I've ever watched. Just there's so much entertainment in there. Yeah, it was really entertaining. But anyway, they use Volt in that, and so that the comments on Twitch and YouTube are like, why are you using Volt and all this? And Volt's always got a bad rap, but I haven't given it. I don't like to dog something unless I've given it a try, a good thorough try in production. I've used and I haven't got to that point yet, and people just dog it without even trying it. So anyway, a lot of the comments were around the starter kits on the thread. Some of them use Work OS, which is like a third-party authentication service. It's like it can end up being a paid service. And then some other ones, they use Caleb Porzio, his Flux package. Yeah. Some of those components, if you want to expand on it, like if you want to do a date picker, you have to upgrade to Flux Pro. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so Taylor came around and he did another Laravel starter kit without Volt. And then they one of the things that, like I said earlier, they said Jetstream's end of life. Now Jetstream is supported. And even if they didn't, to be honest, I could even abstract that out in maybe a day. Like if I had Jetstream in my code, which we have a few apps that at work that do have Jetstream, I see Jetstream more as a starter kit anyway. It's just like where I prefer to maintain password resets. I prefer to maintain the API tokens. Like if If you give me an app where these are already here for you, here's the code if you want to change it. Jetstream does 75% of that, but also tucks a lot of stuff under the hood. They even still maintain Laravel UI. Sorry, I keep going on this. They maintain Laravel UI, and you know what? They even maintain that stupid, like, the legacy factories package, which if you're not on the newest factories, you're missing out. That was back in Laravel 8. Laravel 12 support on legacy factories. So I don't even know how to write one of those. I don't even remember how to write
one of those. They look like somebody vomited in my IDE. Those old school ones.
Yeah, I don't remember how to write those anymore. So anyway, if you ask me, they are going in the right direction. There are some hiccups in there. I think people on the, I'll just stop there. I'm curious to get your thoughts. So you saw this. Mm-hmm. What do you think of all this mess on Reddit?
Yeah, I mean, some of the things, sure. Like, I'm not a big fan of Vault either. I remember when they announced it at Laracon, I kind of rolled my eyes. I was like, I don't really like that. But here's the thing: is that I just never used it. So I don't. They're not making me use Vault. I can still use Livewire the way that I want. This whole thing with starter kits is, I don't know if like we'll get hate for this. Like, if you do, hey, thanks for the comments. You can at me at Dalton McCleary on whatever. Starter kits are fine. I don't reach for starter kits unless they're my own. You can buy them at mergeleap.dev. You can buy my own starter kits. But like, that's what they're for. They're just like, get you started, get you like an extra step of the way. Hey, I want Jetstream just so I could do teams. I usually roll my own team invites when I use Jetstream anyway. But I like Jetstream that it gets me there faster. And I think that's the whole point, is that those starter kits are just supposed to be some helpful stepping stones. They're not supposed to be like, oh, I installed this starter kit and my app's done. I launch it on cloud in a day. That's not how it really works, but sure, you could do that, I guess. My problem is that this whole thing of it going in the wrong direction, like, what's the direction they're going in that's wrong? Like, what's specifically about it? They have too many options. Before we got on this podcast, I mentioned that before I likened Laravel to Apple. Like, the iPhones, they're nice, they're shiny, they're magic, they do what I want without me asking. And I compared Symfony to Android because I don't like Android or Symfony. You can fight me on that too. But I was telling Andy that it feels a lot like Laravel is a lot like Marvel nowadays. Too many shows, too many movies, too many seasons. I can't catch them all. I'm only going to pick and choose what I want. And the problem is that when you realize that you could just pick and choose what you want, you're a whole lot happier. Like,
season one was
watch,
the best season.
Yeah. Season 5, when Laravel 5.4 came out, I told Andy, I was like, I want to pull my hair out how much that upgrade sucked. But like, it sucked, but I got a job because of it. I still get paid because of it. I just think that, there just might be a little bit too many options. Like, that's all I'm getting a lot from these comments, is there's too many options. Not all of them fit my specific needs. And that's the beauty of programming, is that, like we talked about earlier, there's not one way to do everything. You could do just whatever you want. You could shoot yourself in the foot. That's fine. If you want to write only in Blade or only in Vue, or use Aaron Francis' new Fusion thing, if you want to use that, that's fine. I think it's up to you and how your users use it. I don't think it's Laravel's fault.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
For sure. Yeah. I think some people forget the word starter and starter kit. Yeah. So they think, to your point, you're saying just like they get their app set up and they'll upgrade, and then they'll be using their starter kit, and then they'll upgrade to Laravel 12, and they expect that starter kit to be 1-to-1 with their Laravel app. It's like, it's a starter kit, it's not
a component kit.
Right.
It's a starter kit. You start here and build the rest of your app from here. You could delete stuff, you could change stuff, you can add stuff. Like, that's the point of the starter kit.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I want my Laravel app 1-to-1 with the Laravel/Laravel repo. If it's not the same as that one, like that drives me nuts. Like, for example, they change the architecture and then the env variables, like, you can use the old ones, but if it's not the same as the new one, that's gonna drive me nuts. I want them I want to be on the newest version and it to be the same. And so I don't need to be on the latest greatest thing, but if I'm using Laravel 11, I expect to be on the new Laravel architecture. I'm not using the old legacy factories package. I'm not using all this stuff from that I'm still babying along. And so, because that stuff will bite you, and you're going to spend way more time trying to baby along than just fixing it. So, this thread made my blood pressure rise a little bit, but just it's frustrating. But.
Don't get me wrong. There are some good points, right? Like,
yeah, there are. Yeah,
I'm not dogging on everybody. The move more towards paid services, right? Like, well, I was just complaining about Laravel Cloud, 30 minutes ago, of how it's too expensive and I'm not going to use it because it's so expensive. I could post that comment on here, like, yeah, Laravel Cloud's great, but it's not for me. I'm not paying that. Somebody else probably could pay that and find value in it, but it ain't going to be me.
Yeah.
If they lower the prices, I'll use it. I see a lot of people like that, like pushing users towards, more paid services like Forge, or Cloud, or Vapor, Nightwatch, things like that. I mean, I get it, yeah, but if it's going to save you, if it costs you like $20 a month, but it saves you more than $20 a month over time, it's worth it. And I think a lot of like paid starter kits do that a lot too. Like a lot of the advertisements for paid starter kits are, it saves you a week's worth of time of building all this stuff yourself. You don't have to. And I think a lot of Laravel stuff is doing that. Now, when they start doing weird stuff like Apple, where they're like introduce a feature just to sell you the paid fix, then I can understand where that would be a huge pain. I don't think Laravel's done that yet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they've introduced a pain point to sell you a solution yet. The solution is always just going to be composer install or composer require, whatever the command is to start a new Laravel app. You can always do that for free.
Yeah, then there was a post a couple days ago that was saying they removed a lot of sales stuff from the installation docs. And I went through, and sure enough, they kind of reference using Herd, and they're like, oh my gosh, they're pushing Herd more. I'm like, they don't make anything on Herd. It's all beyond code. It's just like, this is I can see that from their people's side of like, oh my gosh, they're trying to push this product. There are companies out there that do that, but Laravel is not one to do that. They just want developer experience to be first, and here's what they recommend. And over in Symfony, when we work on Symfony apps together, they give you the freaking kitchen sink, and some of that's like, okay, you can either put routes in the annotations or routes in a file. Like, what's the best practice here? And they're like, their docs just say, well, you can just do either one. It's just like, okay, we need a best practice. And that's what I like Laravel so much, is they say, here's usually what the best practice is. In fact, for myself, I've made PRs to docs, and Taylor's like, yeah, I understand this isn't documented, but I kind of don't want to recommend it because this isn't good practice. And so I've experienced that from him closing out of PRs or like submitting to docs just because he doesn't want them in there. I get it, but yeah, it's just that's what I like about Laravel, is it's opinionated into like a Apple way. It's like Apple kind of does their own thing, and Laravel, they aren't completely off the deep end, but they kind of set that developer first mindset. And so, that's what I like about it so much. But yeah, I think we beat that dead horse plenty enough. But you have anything that you want to add in there? Yeah, to that.
I think I've said my two piece.
Yeah,
my two cents. Sure. I think I've said my piece.
Cool. Cool, man. Yeah, I will play Dusk of Agony on our closing. But if you would like to close us out, and yeah.
Yeah, thank you all for listening to another episode of the Midwest Artisan. That's Andy. I'm Dalton. You can find us. There's probably links in the show notes. You can find us there. If you're going to spew hate at us because of what we said about Laravel on the Reddit thread, please don't. Be nice about it. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you listening to this. We'll see you next episode in about a month.
And here's your treat for Dusk of Agony. See you, folks.
Shadows creep consumes, it stocks, it taunts. Blood pool request despairs haunts. Fail again, we try anew. Endless cycle, brutal you. Phantom bugs, flickering light. Testless peace, just out of sight. Nightmare scripts weave their stare. Progress buried in despair. Green lights lost, red ones glare. Suffering in the coding lair. We try, the code won't bend. We try, this hell won't end. Dust consumes, it stalks, it taunts. Blood pool request despairs. Let the instruments shred your soul like the air it longs to your will.